Hello and welcome to Doon Does DVD, and this is Disney Classics number 9, Fun and Fancy Free. This intro I expect is going to end up being fairly short because we're still in Disney's weird package era, but I've already talked about all that already. Have a look at one of my previous 3 videos if you don't know what I'm talking about. So this is a film I've definitely not seen before, but it's probably also not going to be very good. On the poster we've got the mention of artists Edgar Bergen and Dean Shaw, people I have not heard of except for the fact that Dean Shaw was also mentioned on Make Mine Music. So at least that tells me we're continuing the trend of contemporary singers. Character-wise it seems we've got Mickey, Donald, Goofy and Jiminy Cricket here. So you put these two together and what I expect we're going to end up with is something in between the Three Caballeros and Make Mine Music. Neither of those were particularly great, so if you smush those concepts together, I'm not sure whether that's going to make things better or worse. So let's just jump right in and find out. Well, this one turned out to be a lot better than I expected. We've still got 2 more to go in the package era, but so far I would pick this one as my favourite. Now admittedly that's a fairly low bar to get over, and we're not talking like it's super amazing or anything, but it's pretty good. And I think the main thing that helps that is that there are only 2 stories here, so each one gets more room to breathe and actually have some structure. And on top of that, both the animation and music quality seem to be at a higher level. Now the music is not particularly memorable and it very much screams the 40s, and it's not something I would generally listen to otherwise, but compared to the other package entries it seems more refined. There's layers, there's choruses, there's breaks. It just seems like a better production. We start off with a nice sounding musical number and then move into a little Jiminy Cricket thing which serves as the framework for these 2 shorts. That's over fairly quickly, and then we move into the first of the shorts, which is probably the lesser of the 2, and it's about a bear called Bongo. He's a poorly treated circus bear who escapes to the countryside and falls in love. And that's basically it. It's all narrated / sung by Dean Shaw, which probably saves a lot on voice cast, and while the story is simplistic, it's well animated. As in Make Mine Music, there is a little bit of questionable subtext involving domestic abuse. There's a whole song about showing your love with a slap, which is sung in the context of bears and other animals, but still it's a bit iffy. But aside from that, it's mostly kind of just slapstick fun, which, you know, isn't great, but it's passable. After that we go back to Jiminy Cricket and things take a very different turn. He gets an invite to go to a party across the street, but that house across the street is a live action house. There we have Edgar Bergen, a child, and 2 puppets. I did a bit of research and Edgar Bergen is apparently a famous ventriloquist, and these puppets were part of his act for a long time in something called the Charlie McCarthy Show. Certainly not something I've ever heard of before, and not something I was ever expecting to see in a Disney film. But this Edgar Bergen guy starts telling a story to the child and the puppets and gets them to imagine it, and that becomes the animation. There's a half woman, half harp who's like queen of the Happy Valley who gets kidnapped, and then everything's suddenly not so happy. Mickey, Donald and Goofy are farmers in this valley who are there now going starving. Donald wants to eat their last remaining cow with pretty murderous intent actually, but instead Mickey goes to sell it. Donald and Goofy are waiting at home for Mickey to come back with all the nice food he's bought, but instead Mickey comes back with some magic beans. At which point I realised this is Mickey and the Beanstalk. Some of you probably already figured that out, but that was a surprise to me at the time. I don't remember there being anything about a singing harp in other versions of that story I've seen. So the rest of it goes as you might expect. There's a beanstalk and a giant, and they rescue the harp, and everyone lives happily ever after. And you know, the animation parts of this were great, but it was ruined a bit by the narration by Edgar Bergen and his puppets. You can feel them trying to be funny and make this a comedy, but at least to a 40-year-old brain, it just falls flat. And so both of these 2 shorts are significantly better than any of the other package films, but also still have sort of fairly major bad points, which, you know, averages out to somewhere in the middle again. What was interesting to find out after I looked some things up, and is probably the cause of the fact that these are slightly higher quality, is that both were originally intended to be separate feature-length films. Mickey and the Beanstalk was originally called The Legend of Happy Valley and was originally pitched 7 years earlier, but then put on hold because of the war and stuff. And one final piece of historical credit this one needs to get is that this was the last time Walt Disney himself played the voice of Mickey Mouse. And so that was fun and fancy-free, best of the package era so far, but that's not saying much. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen it down in comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next week with Melody Time.